The parents of Nottingham attack victim Grace Omalley-Kumar are hoping to offer their support to the family of the 14-year-old boy who was killed in the sword attack in Hainault yesterday. Students
Grace and Barnaby Webber were stabbed alongside school caretaker Ian Coates in Nottingham last summer when Valdo Calacane went on a killing spree. Grace showed incredible bravery because she tried to defend Barnaby as he was repeatedly attacked and even managed to push the attacker away and into the road before he turned the knife on her.
Well, as we know, Rishi Sunak and Grace's parents are backing calls amongst many people for their daughter to be honoured with the George Cross for her selfless courage. And they join us now. Hello, it's very nice to see you here this morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming in. Let's start with what happened yesterday to begin with. I mean, what comfort and support do you think that you'll be able to offer to the parents of that poor boy, based on what you've been through and what, of course, you're going through? What can you do you think, to support them?
I think, Richard, in the first instance, this is another horrific incident, and it seems every day something like this is reported in the press. It's absolutely appalling. You can't even imagine what the parents are going through. This is just the most difficult thing for any parent to endure. It's something that we've endured now for many months, and I can tell you that the distraught that the family are feeling is only felt by a few like us who have lost children in these absolutely appalling circumstances.
So what do you think you'd be able to say to them to give them just even a scintilla of comfort or hope?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think there's anything anybody can say that can really do anything to alleviate their hurt and their pain. So we wouldn't try to minimise that, or I don't think we can, because we know how it feels. But all we can do is empathise and hope that they'll heal with time, but the hurt never goes away.
And they have many friends and family there to support them. It is your nearest and dearest that you need by you at this time. And just like us, it has been our family and our friends who really supported us at this very hard time.
Well, of course, they'll be dealing with the immediate shock and disbelief, I suppose, of what's happened to their lovely lad as he walked to school yesterday. As you process what's happened, I would imagine, you tell me, I would imagine that one of the most powerful emotions that you go through is just simply missing her. Just simply missing her, not being able to talk to her. Is that right?
It leaves an incredible vacuum. We miss our daughter every day. She brought so much colour and so much joy to our lives. You know, we are parents who stood by the sidelines when she played hockey, when she played cricket. We've spent 19 years of our lives literally standing on the sideline for our daughter. The vacuum that leaves, it just leaves an absolute hole in your tummy.
Yes.
And it's a hole that's very, very hard to fill with anything at all.
The irony about the calls for her to receive the George Cross for bravery are very sensitive, because, of course, she could have run away, Sinead, couldn't she?
She could. I mean, we've sadly learned that the exact circumstances of how the events unfolded that night, and Grace was a strong girl. She was an athlete, but ultimately, you know, it was in her nature to stand by her friend. She's always been nothing but a supportive, honourable girl. So, you know, we have to be honest with you. We're humbled by the suggestion that she should be recognised for her bravery.
Or the George Cross.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we called for. It wasn't even on our radar, and we are totally humbled by
we were too busy enduring the pain and actually holding to account the agencies that failed us in our case.
Yeah.
That, as you know, is still ongoing. You were speaking to Emma Webber recently about the WhatsApp messages, Barnaby's mum, about... And, you know, it's about, for us, it's about actually getting to the failings that led to these killings. You know, I can only hope that these failings haven't occurred elsewhere. But it's about pursuing those and making sure when you drop your children to university, you think that they're safe and you want them to have the best time of their lives, which is what we wanted for Gracie. And then you find that it's agency after agency after agency that's failing. And that's why we're calling on the government to actually bring all of these, you know, investigations under one roof in a public inquiry. The public inquiry isn't just for us. It's for everyone. It's for this young lad who's walking to school. Yeah. Hopefully, a public inquiry will change things. It'll change knife crime. It'll change, legislation. It'll look into people who actually failed us when we thought that our daughter was safe and sound. And that's the kind of change that we want to bring about. It is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And a public inquiry is the only thing, really, that will bring about that kind of change for us.
So in a way, Sinead, the calls for the George Cross, as you say, you're humbled by them. And it would be an enormous honour for your daughter, who could have escaped and probably saved her own life, but she stayed and fought. We understand for 30 seconds, fought and fought and fought were the words used by a police officer. But actually, what would really honour your daughter and Barnaby and Ian is to get the system changed so that other children are never in that situation.
Well, and so things like what happened yesterday don't happen. That, acutely, if people are acutely unwell, they need to be treated, they need to have the treatment that they need. But yes, ultimately, it's legislative change.
What about knife crime change? Because, of course, we don't know the reasons behind what happened yesterday, this particular individual. What we do know is the weapon that he was carrying.
Yeah, wasn't it?
No, absolutely right. I had a messaging conversation with Wes Streeting, who's our MP, and yesterday, and I asked him a very simple question. I said, why are weapons like these zombie knives, these samurai swords, crossbows, and he actually came back and said, we're in fact going to try and ban them. And he said, and things like crossbows, why does a household require these items?
Why does anyone require a samurai sword outside of a working environment, potentially, where it might be?
I mean, they just should not be available. They're not available. We know that Idris obviously was calling for them to.
And I think there's so much emotion out there about changing things. I know there's a lot happening internationally, but it just seems to me that, people are calling for change within the country. It seems that, young kids are saying it's an unsafe place to be. Yesterday, I was just overhearing, school children having a conversation about how unsafe it is. It's ridiculous that these things are happening in our backyard, as it were, and and legislation is not following it.
Can I just ask, Sanjoy, you said you must live then not far from where what happened yesterday took place?
Yeah, we're not very far from there.
We're a few miles away.
So you have experienced this with your daughter, who was in Nottingham, away from home at university, and then almost on your doorstep.
But Susanna, I think every person living in London is hearing this. We hear about reports like this, don't we, every day. Now it's become, because for us, obviously, our radar is up, so we actually listen to these stories. But it's absolutely incredible, the amount of the knife crime and then crime associated to mental health is just ridiculously...
It's an epidemic, isn't it?
It's an epidemic, and it's, but we've got to do something about it.
Susanna used the word honour in terms of the medal. It would be an honour, of course, to your lovely daughter. Would it... I'm just looking for any crumbs of comfort that I could possibly talk about with you. Would it bring you any comfort if she was awarded the George Cross, the George Medal? Would it ease in any way, shape or form the pain?
Well, I think what it would do that Grace would be remembered for how she lived her life and what she stood for.
That's what I was thinking.
As opposed to the fate that she suffered and being remembered as for the appalling attacks in Nottingham.
Yes, it would be a summary of her character, wouldn't it?
It would, hopefully supersede the awfulness of her death would be superseded by the dignity and, bravery in her life. Yeah, in
her short life, she wanted to become a doctor. She wanted to join the army and be an army medic. She wanted to, she wanted to do so much. During the COVID epidemic, she vaccinated so many people as a volunteer. She's one of the youngest volunteers in the country. She played hockey for her country. She played cricket for her county. She was someone who represented county, country at every stage. She was always against exclusion.
You must have been so proud of her.
Well, she was a lovely girl.
She's an amazing girl.
The way you talk about her, and not just her character, but what she did. She made a difference, didn't she?
She packed a lot in.
She made a difference.
She did.
Beautiful girl.
And if that can be in a way a role model for other youngsters, I think all the better.
Yeah.
You are still in touch, aren't you, a lot with Barnaby's mum and the family of Ian Coates, of course, who also died. Are they supportive of the call for the George Cross for Grace? Is that something that has been discussed between you?
We actually not discussed it with them, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's all very fresh. It's happened only this week. It wasn't on our radar.
I think support's coming from corners we didn't even expect, like
absolutely.
the Prime Minister and ministers and MPs, but initially it was just senior police officers who spoke to us about it, and her bravery at the time, when that was explained to us, that she was the main character who fought Valdo Calacane for quite a significant amount of time before she was overcome. And it was it was senior police officers and civil servants who first kind of mooted the idea to us. But it wasn't something that was on our radar, and now we see this whole momentum that's behind it, and we are really humbled by it.
But you don't want it to distract from the fundamental change.
Exactly.
Well,
Absolutely
yes, that's a longer battle, and we know that it still has a long way to run yet with all the various inquiries and institutional reviews.
And that's why we're very united with the other families.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we will stand together to bring change for the betterment of the country, and for every parent who sends off their child to university thinking that they are going to be safe. They should be safe. They should have the best time of their lives. And, you know, we can't have failing services that we have in Nottinghamshire. You know, the most recent, you know, the council's been now implicated in one of the failings. You know, there have been the WhatsApp messages that you know about, the police failings, the investigative failings, the mental health trust failings. How many institutions can you have failing in, you know, in a county before you start saying public inquiry, let's change things countrywide?
Absolutely.
Thank you both for coming
Yes, thank
in
you.
to
It's a
talk to
privilege to meet you both, it really is.
us. Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All
Thank you
the
for
very
having us.
best.